Hello guys, I'm Craig McLean. Welcome to episode 18 of the Mk1 Escort RS2000 reassembly. It's time to fit the rear axle, or at least make a start on it. As you've seen in the last episode, I've got most of the bits now to build the axle up. So we'll see how we get on. Don't know whether I'll get it finished in this episode, but I'll certainly give it a go. So let's get cracking and get on with the rear axle. Right, so these are obviously the leaf springs I'm fitting, but these are actually Mark II leaf springs. These are 60mm wide. I think the Mk1 Escort leaf springs are around about 50mm wide. And these can be adapted to fit, and they were recommended to be used by GS Escorts. They recommended that I use a lot of the Mark II rear suspension and drive terrain, actually, brakes, etc. So these are, like I said, these are Mark II springs. And one of the things you do have to do, this is the front edge of the spring where it goes into your front spring hanger. You do have to shave down the silicone bush or the rubber bush, depending on what you have, to make it fit into the hanger. Graham said I'd probably only need to do one side, but when I've took measurements, I've had to actually shave a little bit off both sides. I'm confident that'll be a nice snug fit now. I've also had to cut off around about 8mm of the centre tube. I tried it in the hanger without the spring, and it was 8mm too wide. So I've simply cut that down. That's straightforward enough. But they're now ready to fit into the car. We'll get them fitted very shortly. So this is my standard English axle casing. It's a 47-inch wide, although when you measure it, it's more like 47.5 on the tape measure. For whatever reason, I don't know. Anyways, I was absolutely over the moon when I got this, because I was expecting a rusty old rough looking casing, and when I seen this, it was wrapped in bubble wrap. I thought, my initial thoughts were, they've started making new casings again, that's brand new. But as it turns out, it was originally owned by the guy, Duncan, who owns the body shop who painted the Escort, and he's already prepped and powder coated it, and it's absolutely beautiful. I won't need to do anything with that. And I was over the moon with that, because it didn't cost me any more than what it would have costed for a rough one. So I'm really, really pleased with that. So yeah, that's to fit. The anti-tramp brackets might be in the wrong place. I've got a feeling I might have to do something with that, but I'll have a better way up of that when I get it in the car later today. So the only part missing from this is the diff unit. So I'm going for a 3.89 crown wheel and pinion and an ATB LSD diff, because the ATB diffs are a geared diff. There's no plates, etc., that you need to, constantly attend to. It runs with standard diff oil. Apparently, they're just a lot better for everyday road use. They're maintenance free. You don't have to worry about them. You put them in and forget about it, basically. And that's exactly what I want. So the reason why, as I've said previously, I haven't done the axle yet is because I was dreading building that diff unit up, because it's not something I do. I don't have the tools, and I'll be totally honest, it's not something I really know what I'm doing with without reading up on it. And Graham at GS actually said to me, the best way to do it, he says, I wouldn't try and put your diff together yourself. He said, I'll get it done for you. He says, it's like a £200 charge, but it'll be right then. The backlash and everything will be set perfectly. You're not going to wreck your crown wheel and pinion after a couple of miles. It's all going to be right. And all I'll have to do when that unit gets here is simply paint the actual diff casing in high gloss black to match the axle casing, fit it with the new seal. I've got a new gasket for it, bolt it in, put the half shafts in, and that's the axle pretty much built up. We just need a plug for the oil fill up, and that's pretty much that. So yeah, I'm really pleased with that. I'm going to get that bolted in today, because now I'm really, really want to get the measurements for the back wheels, which I'm hoping to place the order for the for the image wheels today around about dinner time. I'm looking forward to that. I just want to get that order placed, because as I say, there's a 10-week lead time on the wheels, so I need to get that order placed as soon as possible. So then I've got the half shafts, and all these will be getting is the old bearings pushed off, and I've got a brand new set of bearings to push on. I've got a feeling the half shaft on the right, I might have an issue with it. Maybe not, but we'll see as we get closer into it. I'll maybe have to get another half shaft. But if I zoom in, you'll see there the bearing on the shaft's actually split, and it's been MIG welded on, it's been tacked onto the shaft, which is no problem. I'll very carefully dress that tack off, and press the bearing off. But the issue is, generally, when that's done, when someone tacks the bearing onto the shaft, it generally means that the shaft underneath is worn to a point where the bearing is no longer an interference fit onto the shaft, which it's got to be. So I'm hoping it's maybe just been a dodgy bearing and not an issue with the shaft. But if when I come to put the new bearing on, it's a sloppy fit, it's not as much of an interference fit as the other shaft, I will definitely have to get another shaft. But yeah, they just need a real good clean up and fitted after they've got new bearings. So yeah, that's them two parts. I'm now going to get on and I'm going to mock it up. I'm going to put it together basically with one bolt on each part, just to get it in the car, just to get the measurements, and then it'll be stripped down because there's a lot of parts I need to get powder coated for this axle. I'll show you them in a second. So these are just some of the other parts I've got to build the axle up. Obviously, as you can see, as I've just mentioned, you'll be able to see right away which bits need re-powder coated. We've got the drum backing plates. We've got the spring hangers at the bottom for the shockers. Various bits and bobs all need powder coated before I can get the axle built up. We've got new wheel cylinders. We've got a new handbrake cable. We've got the rod for the handbrake system at the back because we're using Mark II parts, as I mentioned. I've got 2-inch lowering blocks and U-bolts, and I've got brand new shoes. And then over there in the box, I forgot to get one out, are brand new 9-inch drums. They'll be getting painted orange to match the front calipers, to match the bodywork. So yeah, them couple of bits will be getting took to powder coat today after I've got it built up, measurements took for the wheels, and stripped back down again. So yeah, we're going to get on with that lot today. Plenty to keep us busy. And a quick look at the brand new drums. As I say, 9-inch, and they just need painted, brand new, ready to fit. Yep, let's get cracking. Right, first part of fitting the rear axle, I've just trial fitted the rear shackles, pushed the poly bushes into the rear section of the chassis leg, and temporarily fitted the shackles. They'll obviously have to come back apart to put the leaf springs in, but yeah, they're fitted really nice and easily. Now obviously before I can put the axle in, I need to remove these mounting points that are welded on many years ago to mount the shell onto the frame, because obviously that's where the leaf spring mounts. Now I've put together what I realise is a bit of a Heath Robinson kind of setup. I've spent no time on this whatsoever. I've just threw it together simply because it's going to be on it about 8 to 10 weeks and it'll be coming off. So I'm not spending time making a pretty mount to mount the car on for a couple of weeks time that's going to get hacked off and threw in the bin. So basically I've got a bit of old rusty box section. I've got a bit of solid bar that runs through the hole on the front part of the chassis leg. And I'm just going to put a couple of MIG tacks on that just to hold it solid, and then I can chop this one out at the base, remove that one and fit the rear axle. So yeah, it may look a bit crap, but it is only a temp. Well, that's our ultra modern horse and cart era rear suspension fitted. A lot of people have asked me why I've stuck with leaf springs when obviously fitting struts is a much better option in terms of the handling capabilities, that it would improve the car. And the simple answer is I didn't want to modify the body to that extent. This was always going to be a lot more standard than the Mini I built previously, because the Mini is anything but standard. I don't think it's got a standard part on it, and I always wanted to build my next car to a lot more standard specification, and that's exactly what I've done here. If you think about all the mods I've done to this car, they're all bolt-on, bolt-off parts. The body shell itself is pretty much standard, so it's, you know, it's not hard to change back if anybody or myself ever intended to. So yeah, these fit really, really easily. I thought this might have been a bit of a bugger to fit on my own with them being big cumbersome things, but they're really not. The only other mod you have to do to the body is drill on this end here, you need to drill out this section here, this hole here, to 12mm instead of 10mm that it was. Same on both sides. Like I say, we had to shave down the silicone bushes, but as you can see, they're now fitting there nice and snug. I think on the passenger side, on the opposite side, I had to open out the spring hanger. And what I did to do that, if you need to do the same thing, what I found really worked well, get yourself a long bolt, put the long bolt through, put a nut on the inside, put a solid plate on the inside, that's on the inner side, stick yourself a plate in so that the bolt goes through and it has something to push against, and then tighten the nut up on the inside and it opens out. If you can imagine, as you tighten the bolt up, it opens out the spring hangers, and you just need to take it slightly further, because obviously when you take the pressure off, it will come back in a small amount. But that worked really well on the other side, and then it slotted right in after that, no problem. You've obviously just got to be careful you don't take it too far and, you know, crack any of your spring hanger or anything like that. But yeah, nice and straightforward. On the back end, it just fits into the shackles as normal. And yeah, there we go. We now have Mark II 60mm leaf springs fitted to the Mk1 Escort with relative ease. No real hassle at all. So I've now got the rear axle temporarily sat in the car. I took yesterday off work to progress the rear axle, and you know what? I wish I hadn't bothered. It was just one of them days where absolutely everything that could go wrong went wrong. It was a nightmare. I went into the house at the end of the day, and it's probably the first time since I started the build, or for a very long time at least, that I just felt like giving up. I just felt like throwing the towel in. I'd had such a bad day. You know, you've got to sit down afterwards and reflect on it and pull yourself back together and think, right, get on with it, which is exactly what I've done. I'm not going to give up at this late stage, obviously, and I wouldn't recommend anybody to give up. Never give up, keep going at it. You know, it's the only way. So basically, I've got the axle in, and what I've done is, on the lip here, on the inner edge of this lip, on the bubble arch, I got a plumb bob used for wallpapering, and I taped the string on the top so that the string came straight down and hung down in front of the hub, and I measured through the hole here in the flange, back to the axle face front, out to the string, both sides, to centralise the axle. I got the axle absolutely perfectly central. I had a measurement of 190mm both sides, so now I knew that the axle was centralised. So I clamped that in position, and then I put the drums on, the back plates and the drums. It was all built up, and I'll show you a picture now of the issue I had. And as you can see, that gap between the back plate and the drum is not supposed to be that big. So I had an absolute nightmare with that, because I couldn't figure out why I had the gap. I spoke to GS Escorts, I spoke to Jacob and Graham, both of which were a very, very good help. And we come to the conclusion that I've actually got possibly Cortina, or at least one Cortina half shaft, because the two half shafts are slightly different. This one here, I think this one here is a Cortina half shaft, because it's the complete wrong offset from the axle out to the hub. It's about 5 to 7mm too much of an offset. So Graham's going to send me out a different set of half shafts to resolve that. Before that, I had an issue putting them together, because one of the half shafts came with this, and only one of them had it on, and I couldn't figure for the life of me where that went. I've never built an axle up before, which didn't help. Turns out, thanks to Jacob, it was a massive, massive help with this. I sent him a picture of it, and he said, that is not required, toss it away. So basically, I don't know where it had come from, but it's not required for this axle. So yeah, then were a couple of things that just threw me off. But now, I'm just waiting of the correct half shaft to come in. I'll then press the new bearings onto the half shaft, clean them up, bolt it together. I need to clamp it all together. I need to make a spacer, or get a spacer to go between the spring hanger and the lowering block, and then I can clamp it all together properly. Put the half shafts in, the back plates, and all the other items I showed you just before there. They're now away getting powder coated. I dropped them off yesterday at powder coaters. Probably the only good thing that happened all day. So once I get all that back, I can get it all built up. And I'm also painting the drums, as you'll see in a second. So I'll get them drums painted up and fitted, and then the rear axle will be well on its way, ready for accepting the diff unit when it comes back. So yeah, I've made some progress on it, but at the minute it's waiting apart. It's really holding me up. I should also mention as well, when it was all built up with the backing plates on and the drums, I also used exactly the same method with the string, with the plumb bob, to measure from the string to the face of the drum, to get the offset of the alloy wheels absolutely perfect. The only issue is, because the offset was too far out, because these are the wrong half shafts, it means I've got about a 5mm difference. But I'm not too worried about that, because at the end of the day, if the wheels are sitting back too far, if I feel like it's too far, they're sitting back too far, I'll simply put a 5mm spacer on here to take up that difference. So I'm not too worried about that. But yeah, I've actually got all the measurements now to order the alloy wheels.
Well, here's our rear drums at the start of the painting process. The one on the left's being primed, the one on the right hasn't. And if you wonder why my voice sounds so muffly,
it's another glorious day. So let's make best of both. Let's get the car out and work on it in the sun. That's it, right, do you want to put a foot brake on? Put another one on, then I'll let go. We may as well have the 4 on it. Lovely. Right, first job on this glorious day is to fit these rubber trims and fit along here and sandwich the glass between the two edges of the door. So first I've got to fit these clips, and then the trim should just drop down into place. I think I will have a little bit of the trim to cut out around this support, but we'll have a look at that in a minute. So yeah, let's get on with that. I'll show you them fitted very shortly. There's nothing much to fit in them, I don't think. I think they'll probably be fiddly, but they're not technical to fit. You know what I find the most frustrating about YouTube? You're rocking away to some absolutely awesome tunes, and then you've got to knock it off every 5 seconds when you're doing your videos because of YouTube's bloody pathetic copyright rules. Anyways, that's that rant over. Let's crack on. And there we go. That's the two of them fitted on the passenger side. I've obviously done this side because this is against the wall in the garage, and it'll save me pulling the car back out to fit them, so that's now done. And we've actually got an intact glass on this side, which is good that it happened on the other side and not this side. Yeah, I did have to cut a little slither out of the rubber just along this edge to allow the rubber to slide towards the front a little bit. The outside one went on really, really easily. Nice little job. The inside one, however, was a different story. It was a bit more challenging. Getting the clips on inside the door was a bit of a nightmare. I ended up breaking the pin off one of them. As you can see there, the little tab that holds it onto the door, I ended up breaking that off. Can't be helped. It is what it is. So that's one side done. First job of the day out the way. And the next job of the day is I've third coated and unmasked the rear drums. They now look absolutely superb. Really happy with them. So when I get the rest of the bits for the axle, they can just be fitted anytime. Another little job complete. So due to lack of parts, I've had to drop back onto a bit of wiring today. So I've been running in cables for the likes of the fuel pump. I've got the fuel pump cable running up here. I've got this cable running here for the rear heated window. They all need supplied through the fuse box. They're things I can do when the car's in the garage. I've been working on it out here where I can get in and out the doors much easier. So I've fitted the switch panel. It just needs a good clean because it's been sat on my workbench for God knows how long. So working from right to left, we've got wipers, front heated window, that just needs a switch fitted. Rear heated window, I won't be keeping that switch because it's obviously very rough. Then we've got a heater motor, and the far side, the far left one, will eventually be hazard warning lights when I get that little sub loom and get that fitted. So yeah, just another little bit of progress today. More wiring, unfortunately. Not my favourite bit, but it needs done. So since I got the car back from paint, there's been two things I've been really looking forward to. One of them was getting the throttle bodies ordered and fitted, And as you've seen, I've already kind of partially done that. And the second was ordering the wheels. And the reason I haven't ordered the wheels, as I've explained, is because I wanted to take loads of measurements to make sure I got them absolutely perfect in terms of offset. So I'm very, very pleased and excited to say that I've now ordered the wheels. And as you can see, these are a very, very close copy to the original RS wheel, only these are far, far superior in terms of quality. They're made by Image Wheels. Image Wheels are, I've got them on the Mini, they're absolutely fantastic quality, but you do pay for them. And the only problem with these wheels are, it's going to take up to 10 weeks for them to come. Now, I did hope that that would be, I did hope that that might be like a maximum, you know, a worst case scenario. It turns out, because it's race season and Image Wheels have got loads and loads of orders in, the 10 week will actually be the full 10 week, unfortunately. So I will have to wait for these wheels coming, but I'm so looking forward to getting these wheels on the car, getting it down on the ground and getting the stand set, because that's the reason it's took so long so far, is to get the wheels, all the measurements right, so that it just looks the part. And as all car enthusiasts know, the wheels on a car are everything. How they sit on the car, how they fit in the arch, it gives it the stance, it gives the car that wow factor if you get it right, which is why I haven't went and ordered these weeks and weeks ago when I would like to have. I've held on till I got the axle in place so I could take some detailed measurements to get it right. So yeah, they are now on order, I'm pleased to say, and hopefully by maybe the second week in June, I think I've worked it out, I should hopefully have them wheels ready to fit to the car. So in this episode, I was hoping to get the rear axle finished and in the car. As you've probably seen, that hasn't happened, mainly down to the fact that I just couldn't get parts here quick enough. A lot of the parts I need aren't here, so therefore I'm basically going to conclude the axle in the next episode. So if you want to see the completion of the rear axle being fitted into the car, I'm going to try my best to finish that off in the next episode. So thanks very much for watching, guys. I'm going to leave this video here. Thanks very much for all your watch, all your support, all your likes, and I'll see you next time.